nice bird.
Well, thank you everyone so much for being here. Welcome to the Center for Teaching and Learning. I'm Marlo Daly Galliano, and I'm honored and grateful and to use Dr. Aduonum's language from last night, very much indebted to do this work on Nimipu lands. It's such a pleasure to welcome Dr. Nana Ama Oforiwaa Aduonum to the CTL as our first speaker of LC State's Black History Experience. Black History Experience is made possible through the support of the Rose Hill Society, the Division of Humanities, the Division of Social Sciences, LC State Social Work, and LC State Athletics, as well as my fellow committee members, Amy Minervini, Dr. Sarah Graham, Dr. Luella Loudenbach, Dr. Terry Rust, and student Kenneth Baidu and Shanna Hart. Dr. Aduonum joins us from Illinois State University, where she is professor of ethnomusicology. If you were fortunate enough, as many of you I know were, to be at her performance last night, I'm sure that you have already had your mind blown. We've been talking about it. Yes. And I really can't imagine a better way to start Black History Experience. Today, Dr. Aduonum will talk to us about her research and her book, Walking with Asafo in Ghana. This book is incredible. I've just been so excited by the kind of your revolutionary approach to scholarship. So I think, we're all going to learn so much during this conversation. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. How would you like to start this? Would you like to start by asking questions, or would you like me to start by saying something about the process?
I'm curious to know about your process. Maybe that would be a good way of saying.
Right. And so I am an Akan from Ghana. I speak Chi. And I've always been interested in Asafo. Asafo is a warrior tradition in many Akan societies along the coast of Ghana. And I wanted to learn more, but I also learned that Asafo as a tradition is fading because of Christianity. People are not performing Asafo anymore because when they do perform, they are chastised by their community members, by their pastors, that Asafo is heathenist, satanic, evil performance. And this is also true for this has been said of many of our traditions in Ghana, so they are dying out. And so when I went in, I didn't know where to begin. I went to Kormantse, my main site, and I was told that nobody performs Asafo anymore. And so I decided then that what I'll do is I'll start walking. And walking enabled me or allowed me to visit other other towns along the coast and ask those whose ancestors, grandfathers performed Asafo. Talk to them, ask questions. I also walked a lot. I walked the landscape because I had learned that when Asafo was very much performed, the Asafo warriors sang along those lines, those pathways and those landscapes. And so in a way that the landscape and Asafo traditions are one because they were so present. So I thought that walking would be a good way for me to not only talk with people, but also to get a sense of the breadth of this tradition that is such an important part of the landscape. I learned that the land has memories, histories, and so if the land has histories, what can the land walking these paths, taking these pathways, this landscape, engaging with these landscapes, allow me to learn, right? And so besides walking and talking, I also engage with people and their memories of Asafo, right? Because I was talking about walking, using walking as a methodology, metaphorically as well, right? So you walk with people, not just a physical walk, and I make that distinction in the introduction. So I use that, and in walking with people, I try to engage with their memories of Asafo and what they remember, right? I work with different people, women, men who had performed Asafo before, for them to recall their memories of Asafo, what Asafo was. And so this walking became an important methodology approach for me to engage with all of this rich history, right? This rich background. And sometimes when people shared memories with me, I took these memories on walks, right? So, for example, they'll say, you know, when you go to this place, this is where we fought with the Asante warriors and we sang this song, and you know, so I walked to those spaces and try to imagine what and how those spaces could conjure and the songs that were sung there to experience it for myself, right? Although, you know, remotely, I wanted to. So I took these memories on walks. I took history walks, again, to see the sites and the spaces where certain historical events occurred. So walking was my primary mode of engaging with this history, that this tradition that was fading. Yeah. And I also made it a point to privilege the voices of my teachers, because they were scholars, right? Because oftentimes as anthropologists, as scholars, ethnographers, we go in and we learn about these traditions, and we come back and then we write in our own words, right? For me, it was very important to to privilege the voices. So I amplify the voices of my teachers. And so you see lots of interviews, lots of words, their own words in there, statement or something that I try consistently and, you know, just deliberately, intentionally to really highlight their voices and not bury their voices or their stories in my words. So that was also another strategic one. Another thing that I also wanted to do was to engage with ancestral knowledge. And so you hear me or see, read lots of proverbs, right? Because proverbs for me became the framework for all the discussions that I gave. For example, I used one, and I mentioned this last night. Means one finger cannot effectively clean the face or wash the face. So in my process, I try to tap into different avenues to really get a fuller, some understanding, a deeper understanding of this tradition. I also use poetry. I love poetry. And for me, there are some experiences that I believe prose writing is not able to capture, right? And so for me, poetry is very evocative, you know, without all the other words that I think really tends to bury the essence of what's being said. Just go right through it. And so that I use all of these things really allowed me to express and to share my process and talk about what I learned and how I learned it and what it meant for me as a scholar of ethnomusicology. So I think I've talked too long. Are there specific parts of the reading that you'd like me to elaborate about or read? I would like to read one. Another thing too, that really surprised me was as a Black woman and the mother of a Black boy and a Black girl, over time, I hadn't recognized this. I had worn, embodied in my soul, in my body, in my whole being, these notions and the effects of white supremacy, right? And I think I had taken that for granted until I went into the field and I started reading things through those lenses, right? There's a part in here which I'd like to read because I bring this up. And this is in chapter 7, one of my favorite sections. I'm talking about on page 298, America the Beautiful, got me trauma ghosted. I walked to another side of the seaside. A group of 150 plus beautiful men had assembled, mending their nets, patching their damaged boats, assessing their loss and strategizing. A gorgeous woman of about 60 years old, a true Ahmose beauty, sat behind her tray of Ahir sugarcane under the coconut trees, next to several damaged boats, next to men whom she hoped would buy her Ahir. Others with trays on their head peddled their valuable merchandise. I bought 3 stocks to support their Ahir business. I mingled among, talked with beautiful Black men together, gathered, talking loud, laughing loud, bonding, supporting, walking with beauty, with permission from nobody, mending nets, boats, strategizing, home. Walking while thinking. Once in a while, I scanned the area nervously to see if any white person was watching the beautiful Black men. I looked out for whoever might be watching, policing, accusing, or trying to harass them. Any of these beautiful Black men could have been Philando Castile, Alton Sterling, Eric Garner, Dante Price, Derrick Jones, and the many other unarmed Black men killed by police officers. My body was on edge. My heart started to beat fast. The result of my experiences as a Ghanaian woman, a Black mother of Black children living in America, has me trauma ghosted. That recurrent or pervasive sense that danger is around the corner or something terrible is going to happen because you are Black. My memory walked to the day my son asked, "Will they kill me too when I grow up, Mama?" Muscles tensed, heart sank, eyes twitched. Ghanaian Akan elders say, she who had been bitten by a snake is afraid of a worm. But it was on touch. The effects of white body supremacy that lived and breathed in my own body had walked with me home, Ghana, Komanti, feeling connected and disconnected at once. Walking, what is walking in America, the beautiful, doing to me? My senses, creativity, mental health, body. The dilemma of a ghost. Onantifosni onini osniasem. The walker knows more than her mother and father. But onantifo na ogunomani, the walker also suffers. Flashback. America the Beautiful, where the proud sons and daughters of Mama Africa are orphaned, devalued, criminalized, the new Jim Crow 13, police patrolling, red, blue, and white lights, flashing, intimidating, laws against gathering of Black bodies, policing Black bodies, decentered Black bodies in America. America the Beautiful, where walking while Black, jogging while Black gets you killed, Black bodies can't breathe. Akoko satre akroma say ara enye amofofo. No matter how gracefully the chick dances, it does not please the hawk. Racial battle fatigued, trauma ghosted. Things are falling apart. Oh, gaps. What will they often do? A jankabeye day. A royal in one place may find herself enslaved in another place. Baby this year. Yeah, baby. not ghosted. Cry. Unbelonging, child of the new African diaspora, back and forth, diasporic intimacies. Flash forward. This is not America. This is Cormanti home, the soul of Black folk, the center, 150 plus, Bebrekwa. Black men can assemble, talk, gather, bond, console, walk freely, read, with permission from nobody. Mend nets, strategize, Black Lives Matter here. Epopon Anabosompo protects, even in her fury. Gods will trouble the war. Boom, boom, pa, boom, pa, pa. Will they kill me too, Mama? Breathe, Amma. Breathe. This is not America. This is Cormansi. I trudged to the seaside and stood at the edge of the sea, then paced back and forth, pretending to be the Asafo drummer with the Jinahoria drum. Pa pum, pa pum, 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 pa pum, pa pa pa, pum, pu pu pa pa, pu pa, pu pa pa pa, pu pa, pu pu, pu pu pa, pu pa 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 pa, pu tum, pa pa, invoking and pleading with Nana Bosompo to deliver the body of the drowned fisherman. The waves crashed, rolled, tumbled, and splashed onto my feet, pacing up and down the coast while thinking. I stepped on a seashell, stabbed my foot. I hobbled along. Kokoja, 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 kokoja. Thinking 150 Black plus Black men. Baby this year, your baby don't go. Kokoja. What will my feet remember? This is not America. Koko. And that's that section. That was hard. Any questions or comments or any parts that you'd like me to elaborate?
I'm gonna ask, so what you just read, I think connects with what you were that going into this place that's your home, yet you were an outsider,
Right.
and they had to tell you how to dress so that, be native.
Right, right.
And so, and what was that? What was that like, and how did that affect your journey?
Yeah, that was interesting and challenging too. I was hoping that people would not, because there's something about when you live outside for a while and you go home, people see you differently. The way you walk, the way you talk, because I recognized very quickly, very early in the process, that when I was walking, rushing to go somewhere. Maybe that has to do with the cold weather here, or you have to walk fast or something like that. So I recognized that very quickly. And I was also very careful because I wanted people to not see me as a foreigner, wanting people to see me as a Ghanaian and willingly help and support my research. I chose to not wear jeans. I chose to dress the typical Ghanaian way, which is, you wear a wrap around you, you wrap your head and you wear the cover, the top. And so I thought that doing that, I'll be able to blend in and not be, have this era around me that I'm coming from outside. But that surprisingly put me up there, because Ghanaians these days don't dress right. They wear jeans and pants, and a lot of them have wigs and wig-ons and all that stuff. And so at least those my age don't, and even the younger ones still don't. So I think that really put me out there, and the way I was walking. Even when I spoke the Akan language fluently, people still saw me as an outsider, and that was very frustrating for me, right? And so this idea of, an insider outsider dichotomy, what do those really mean? And I struggle with that. So when I said I was going native, what does that even mean to go native, right? Is dress code enough to go native? Is language enough to go native? Or are there other things that, are necessary to go native? I don't know. And what is a native? Now, we live in a contemporary world with social media, and people are borrowing ideas from all over. Dressing and everything is just like shifting now, right? And so, yeah, that really was an interesting revelation for me. Because one guy told me flatly in there that Ghanaians don't dress like that. And I mentioned it in the book, and I'm like, how do Ghanaians dress? Everybody wearing a skirt. They all wear jeans and pants. So that going native one, because a friend of mine another scholar had actually advised me. He said, go native. I didn't ask what that meant, but I think I should have. But what he said was, don't speak English. Speak the Akan language. Fanti language, speak the Fanti language, and that will get you. So yeah, this whole idea of going native and searches and how our identities inform who we can talk to, what spaces we can enter, how much information we can get, and all of that, played heavily. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I brought my daughter last night who's 14.
Oh, you did?
And, she could not stop talking about you afterwards. She was so amazed. She's usually very reserved and unexcited about things. And her mind was just totally, she didn't know what a talking drum. She'd never seen anybody use a talking drum before. She'd never seen the instrumentation or the singing or the dancing that she did. I mean, everything was all new to her, and she could not stop talking afterwards. So thank you for that gift. I think you gave her more education last night in like an hour than she's gotten like ever. And
how old is she?
14.
Okay.
Yeah. So you kind of blew her mind. But you brought your children into it, and to your performance. And I was sitting with my daughter and thinking about these big life experiences that really move us and shift us in really big ways. And then having to come back to our children. And you had mentioned sort of this, it reminded me of the line, truth properly considered should not stop short of insanity. And, and I saw some of that in your performance, and then thinking, well, then you got on a plane and you came home. And there's that sort of space of having to change and synthesize. I was wondering if you could speak to that at all.
When I came back to the US?
Yeah. With your family. I don't know if you want to. That might be too personal, and you don't have to. Okay.
That was rough. That was something. It took me a while because I came back in August, and I had 1 week to prepare and go to class and start teaching. And I hadn't really taken the time. After my last day, I think my last day of the visit in this dungeons was like August, maybe 15. And I came back on the 17th, and classes started on the 24th. So I didn't set that experience into classes. So that was very difficult. People saw me, and because I could tell they couldn't recognize me. They had to do like double takes. I had also lost some weight, so much because I wasn't eating on the days when I was in the dungeons for some time. I didn't eat before I went in. And when I left, I was so depressed, disconnected that I couldn't eat. And so I lost so much weight, and I mean, mentally, I was just a mess. So it was very difficult, and it took me a while to really, it took me over 6 months to really get back to some level of normalcy. Not only that, I also had the 2 children that I had to make sure they were going to school, getting things ready. So it was a lot of, trying to figure out what goes where and what goes, So I didn't really have the time to really process all of that. It was very difficult. It was very difficult. I went to class and I was not teaching. Very disorganized, and someone said, Dr. Aduonum, are you okay? To say, no, I'm not. To admit and say, no, I'm not. I went through counseling too for some time to talk it through. And the counseling was okay. I don't believe that. It's like you really have to experience what I went through to understand, right? Because the things I was telling my therapist, those were words, right? Words. But I think a lot of it was also embodied in my body, my emotions, right? Some of those things I couldn't even express through words, right? I remember one time I was in a session and she was asking me to share what it was like. I didn't have the words. So I started singing. And I sang a little bit, I started dancing. Because everything is so much in my body that words could not capture. Words were not enough to capture whatever it was in my body. So I just used my body to express it. And I think she started to get just a little bit of what it was. So that helped a little bit. Yeah. It was hard. Thank you for asking that. And I'm okay talking about it. I really am. I'm good.
So I have a couple of questions. Well, I just think about the trauma that you intentionally went into those
Yeah.
places and spaces that
Yeah.
were in those structures that hold that trauma,
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't surprise me a lick that
Yeah.
took you, but I also can't imagine that you would have done that and not be forever changed in
Yeah.
a way.
Yeah.
So the adjustment back to normal life was that much more complex for you.
Right.
It would, at
Right.
least that's what makes sense for me. I just think it's such fascinating and wonderful work.
Yeah.
And I thank you for that, for educating us here and being here in our little community. It's amazing. And I just think about your spirit, the spirit of you. For the sake of this work, you moved into that
Yeah.
discovery and questioning, and so because it is life altering,
Right, of
and
course.
spirit
Yeah,
altering and all
yeah,
of that, and you
yes.
still have to do the dishes and get the kids to
Yes.
school. and,
Yes.
You know, so one question is, how do you take care of yourself in all of that? And I know, and it sounds as though, for me, what I hear you is music and dance, and that's beautiful, but that's also a part of it too, right?
Right.
And maybe that is your
Yes,
work. But
yes.
here's the other question, and that's really kind of maybe just discussion. You can certainly, if you found a question in there, yay.
Okay.
I think about what you said earlier this afternoon about having, you made reference to white supremacy and taking it for granted. So another question really is, because of that experience, that spirit changing experience, you must have had some sense that it would be life altering, right? I mean, I can't imagine you would have. Anyway, so did you see things differently when you came here? And then the bigger question that I have from last night is, what is your answer for your son? And I asked that question because I am the mother of a biracial son, and he is profiled, has been profiled. You know, it's a thing. It's a real thing where we're scared as mothers, right? And I don't look like you, but my son, it comes from the ancestry, right? And so I too have that question,
Yes.
right? And how do we protect them? And
Yeah,
so, anyway,
yeah. So when my son asked that question, I was telling the class this morning, I mean, when you live in America, you hear, you see the videos of Black bodies brutalized, and all that stuff. And for me, each time I saw that, it was, oh, another, Black person being killed, and oh my God, how horrible it is. How can we change? And I cry. Sometimes I cry. I mourn. I sleep in bed, can't get up. In this mental state that I can't get rid of. When my son asked that question, it became real for me because now it was on my doorstep. It was in my home. And so that really shifted that so quickly for me. I didn't know what to say when he asked that question. I got scared. And I'm still scared. Tyree Nichols was buried memorial yesterday. And I invoked him in the performance yesterday. It's scary, and so like what I said, what can I do? I can teach you to be proud of who you are, to be respectful, to love who you are, to be happy. I'll also pray for you because I can't be there all the time. Even when I'm there, my hands are tied. So I'm going to instill pride in you. I'm going to show you how to love who you are. I'm going to teach you to love others fully, to be you, and just love you as much as I can. Because when you step out of this door, out of this home, the world decides, defines you. And as a Black boy, it's like you are born a crime. You are presumed guilty. And so I in another essay, I wrote about how when my son has on his hoodie, my son likes to jog. And when he's jogging, also knows what others might think of him. They don't know who he is. All they see is a Black body, male Black body. That's a threat.
running.
Running. What is he running from? What is he running to? All those things. People don't ask those questions. You just assume. So you are stamped. You are stamped from the very beginning. And so I've not been able to answer my son's question. All I've told myself, just know, treat people nicely, do the right thing, follow the law. And when something happens, when you're stopped, whatever, do what you're asked to do. Don't, argue, have them call me. If they ask you a question, you are a minor, don't answer. Just say, call my mom, call somebody. And yeah, but I think it's very important as mothers, Black, white, yellow, green, to instill pride in our children. Because I think our children, especially our Black girls and boys, but our children in general are against several odds, are really struggling with a lot of shifts. Social media is huge, having a huge impact on their mental health, right? They don't know who they are. So I think as parents, we should take time and love our children, spend time with them, instill pride in our children. Share our stories, share our experiences. They should know where they came from, who they are. Because if we don't, someone is going to tell them who they are. there are many avenues that I would tell them who they are and try to define them. And so we have to spend the time and help shape who they are, let them know who they are, where they came from, their stories, and still pride in them, in their skin, in their hair, and everything about them. Laugh with them, eat with them, spend time with them, right? And so that is what I do with my children. I spend so much time with them. It's important for them to know that there is one place that they are safe and feel protected. So that's what I do. I'm still thinking of what to tell him, but I think he's 17 now. He asked me when he was 12. He's 17 now, and I think he gets it. He's a proud young man. Beautiful. And my daughter as well. She's 12, but she thinks she's 24. Thanks.
I mean, this actually seems like a very clinical question after the kind of conversation we've been having, but I was so struck by your book. And, this is, University of Rochester, it's a university press. You're working within the academy. This is a book that people will get tenure for, your research is very impressive, but there are so many moves you make in this book that are really not going with the norms. Your refusal to use Western musical notation,
Yes.
your inclusion of forms that we don't see as scholarly. Could you just talk about that and your, editorial publishing process?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And so I went to Florida State University, and as I mentioned earlier, and also the performance, I grew up in a family that was very musical, very artsy. We performed and proverbs, storytelling. So that was my way of engaging with knowledge, right? So when I went to Florida State, and in many ethnomusicology departments and training, you are taught to conduct the research. You are taught to write a certain way, and it's publish or perish, right? There is that pressure. And I just didn't feel that I just couldn't write in that way. I just couldn't write in that so-called scholarly, quoting dead white male theorists and all of that, people whose lived experiences had nothing to do with mine, right? And so I didn't write. I just didn't do anything because I was afraid that if I wrote how I wanted to in the performative privilege and ancestral knowledge and those stuff, people will not read, And also as a public scholar, I like to write in such a way, and that is why I use performances a lot too, write in such a way that that speaks to that people who are not in my field, the general reader, can also grasp the book and read. So I just didn't write. I remember I wrote an article and sent the article for publication in the Ethnomusicology Journal, the prime journal of ethnomusicology. And I got a review back, and one of the reviewer's comments was, this essay is not scholarly enough to be published in our esteemed journal, and some other things that were said. And that troubled me. That really, really bothered me. And that further silenced me. But I am the type who, when something not empowering happens, disempowering happens, it energizes me. Mm-hmm. So when I read that, it silenced me for a little bit. But then it energized me, and I said, no, this is how I'm going to write. this is my voice. I am going to center my voice and my way of sharing knowledge and bring in the performative, bring in my ancestral knowledge and highlight and privilege my ancestral knowledge and also the voices of my teachers. Because I have this information because of them. And I need to respect that. And also talking about Western notation, I think Western notation is good to a point, but I really don't think, I know it does not really capture the essence of the music. It's like caged knowledge, right? Caged. It's just so fixed. But that is not what Asafo is. That is not what our music is. Our music is performed. It's oral. It's performed and experienced live, right? Oh yo, copy they do be. Oh yo, copy they do be. Oh yo. Now tell me how you can put that on paper. Who knows? Right? And so, and this is why I refuse to. I also think that Western notation has a way of silencing our musicians, especially those who don't engage in that practice, right? It silences their way of being, their way of performance, their way of engaging with this music. And so I refuse. It was an intentional, deliberate choice decision to not include Western notation because I didn't think it did justice to the musical culture, the tradition that I was writing about. And that is why I write the text, but then I've also provided the audio that people can listen to while they read the text to get a sense of what it sounds like. Because each performance of the same song, every performance of the same song is different, depending on the embodied caller, the one who is calling the songs, what she or he is feeling, and what inserts he decides to put in the introduction, right? So it shifts every time. And so when you write that down, you're not getting the full story of the song or the many possibilities of the song, and so that is why I chose deliberately to not engage with Western notation. And I think doing that allowed me to explore other avenues of talking about the songs, right? Using poetry and imagery and stuff like that to talk about those things. So it was a really bold move. So when I approached my editor, and I said, I have this book and this manuscript. I just want you to take a look at it because I was concerned that I was going to get the same reaction like I did for the article. And they came back and were like, we love it so much. And so that energized me more, And I said, you do realize that I'm not including Western notations. And they were like, yes, that's why we love it, because Western notation is seen as a part of the colonial legacy of trying to define African music and put it in this box as this is what it is. Life. The music is life. And I think, the notation is fine, but I just as much. Yeah, thank you.
It's a really exciting book to
Yes,
read.
yeah. Yeah, I want to read a part, if that's okay. And this is in the prologue. And this is where I'm talking about a trip that I took down when I was going to the dungeons and I saw the castle. This is on page Roman numeral 12. It's part of the prologue. Port Amsterdam, you look lonely. An unused rug, worn out, discarded, days of glory gone, forgotten. Epopon Nanabosompu, great Atlantic, washes your feet, kisses you with her great waves, yet you smell. In Tumaswania, the cruel cloth tears along its weakest points. Useless you. You hold my ancestors' memories, dreams, songs in your belly, womb. The axe forgets, the tree remembers. What can you tell me, us, about the nameless and forgotten, the souls of those black folk who languished in your belly, their menstrual disorders, dripping breast milk, swelling prostates, diseased gums, death. I want to know you, I want to know them, understand, sing, talk, rock them, ask questions, who, what, when, why, how, massage their tired backs, achy bones, numbed buttocks, caress their hearts, feet, moan with them. So this all happened, and this was before I changed my topic to Asafo. I wanted to do, to learn more about slavery, enslavement, but Ghanaians didn't want to talk about it. And someone suggested that, just go in and ask them about the Asafo companies. And if the Asafo companies sang songs about slavery, that would be an entry point. That will get you, to have them talking about about slavery, but I didn't get that. Yeah. There is a part in here where, those in dance use Laban notation. Laban notation is a notation that is used by people in dance and choreography to notate dance, something similar to the music notation. And I witnessed many dances, Asafo dances. There was a flag dancer who dances the flag. And while I stood there watching, I asked myself, how can I capture this? There's so much going on. There's a drumming, there's a call and response singing, there's a flag being twirled back and forth, there's a dancer doing all this. How can I get all of this stuff? What notation can best express all of this going on, right? And there was none. And so I used poetry. So I like to read that at page 245. And here I had gone in, and the flag, each Asafo company has several flags. And on these flags, there's a picture of one on page 254. Right. You see it? A copy of the flag here it is here. Yeah. And these flags have symbols on them and proverbs. And these proverbs, have we seen it? Okay. And these flags have symbols and proverbs on them. And a lot of them celebrate their victories over their foes. And this particular one says the elephant, Osuno Kokuroko, Unso Okoto na Okuno. The elephant is monstrous, yet it is the crab that kills it. And so on this particular flag, you can see a very huge person, right? And then a tiny person just walking over it, right? And so these are the flags that they dance to display, the beauty of the flags, but also to taunt their rivals. So this particular day was a gentleman who said, the first 245. The featured dancer, flag dancer at the Aduonum event was the same gentleman who started the drum call earlier in the day. He had on a raffia skirt and two long necklaces crisscrossed across his naked torso and around his upper arms like a priest. Amidst intense drumming and singing, he stepped into the ring without the flag. He stood quietly in one place for a minute, listening to the njom, studying the space, the audience. Then he began to shuffle his feet slowly, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then he stopped. Then he hopped on one foot, facing and moving in one direction. Then he moved in the other direction on the other foot. One of the Asikamboko flag guardians who guarded the ritual space threw him a flag. Then, Ah, Frankahuntani, dance that flag, jump, crouch, low, twirl, give flag to the audience, give flag to audience, give flag to audience, touch, 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 roll the flag, roll, while twirling the flag, up, jump, release, spread flag, dance it on your back, display its beauty, quick step, hop on one foot, leap, twirl it, stop, pause, survey your surroundings, roll on the floor. Show your struggle, your difficulties, jump to show victory. Enibria and so ija. The eye gets red, but it does not ignite fire. As he can buff flag guards, clear the path, clean his path, guard him, the flag, lest he drops the flag, falls. Disgrace does not befit the Akan child. Oh, Hanyanim adiapam, nanso netutokuru. The needle knows how to sew, but its bottom has a hole. So massage the dancer's heels, rub his heels, lest the spirit takes him to Motiakrum, land of the dwarfs. They be that, oh no. Franka Huntani, Ochema Master Drama talks to you, with you, calls you, summons you, advises you, wave the flag, dive, evade your enemies, stop, think, move, low, low, low. Dive high. Hey, Frankahuntani, you who move the widow to tears. You dance. Your dance brings memories. You who once brought the Chenchen wood to life. Revive the dead. Celebrate victories. Symbols. Abba. Heart of Asafo Company. Anomanfa diahu bufuo. The bird cannot be angry at the tree. Dance the flag. Hey! Obao, ha. Breathe. 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 You have done well. Mbo. Naye. So this is how I was able to capture the energy and the vitality of this of the flag.
Were you talking about?
Yeah.
Everybody goes. People that don't have.
Let's do a drawing.
Yeah, they're gonna draw. But this is.
Have you? What have you?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, nice. Oh, you have one.
Bob Sabota. Oh.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if we're done yet, but I got the mic, so you know. And then I'll be back for the drumming thing.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I don't, you know, right here is fine, or maybe not inside the cover.
I like what you said, Marla. It's so drawn. Oops,
Sorry.
all the different voices and all the
How long are you here visiting us? Oh, Saturday.